The modern Democrat coalition is being pulled apart by widening religious divides, while Republicans continue to draw support from largely Christian voter bases. Those are the facts. Whether you like them or not, we're going to talk about them on today's episode with the great Dr. Burge. Welcome back, Ryan.
Always a pleasure to be with you, Sam.
This is, I don't know, is it a bit clickbaity? I don't know, but it's politics, it's religion. Maybe it'll hit the great algorithm and we'll get a little more traction on this episode. I don't know. But it is a real issue. And us being commentators on church and religion, I think it's quite a valid topic. So more on that here in just a second. Want to thank our sponsor, Rooted. The Rooted experience can help you create a discipleship culture that connects your people and leads to ongoing life change in Jesus. It's a great curriculum for your church. Great way to start groups. Want to thank Rooted for all that they've done for Church Answers as well. Great partner. Love our ministry partners. Go to experiencerooted.com/church answers for free resources and to learn more. Link is in the show notes. All right, Ryan, I'm just going to wind you up and let you go because you are the facts guy. And man, you have had some, just everyone knows, follow Ryan on Twitter. What's the Twitter handle again, or X handle?
At Ryan Burge.
Ryan Burge. Okay, but it's graphsaboutreligion.com.
That's my Substack. Yeah, you got it. drburge.com is my personal website, which I'm going to get rid of, I think, and just merge it all into Substack at this point because, that's where people want to go, the Substack and the Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter is the place to follow because he had some great interaction of late. You went viral. And I actually texted Ryan because the 3-year Letterman interacted with him, and that's one of my dreams. I don't know who he is. It's the greatest troll in the history of social media. And Ryan, you have reached the zenith of your career.
Listen, with New York Times op-ed, nah, man. I got 3-year Letterman to retweet me. That's going on my CV. Okay.
I think you should put it.
Take that, Wash U.
He's a great anonymous troll. No one knows who he really is. And 3-year Letterman, if you're listening to the show, hit me up, sam@churchanswers.com. All right. So what's going on with Democrats? And we are going to talk as plainly as we can without any partisanship here. Mm-hmm. Tell me, why did Democrats hate religion, Ryan?
Yeah, no commentary at all, right? So, hey, I'm going to promote my book. It just came out called The Vanishing Church, which is how the hollowing out of moderate congregations hurts democracy, faith, and us is the subtitle. And by the way, by moderate, I don't mean everyone's a moderate. I mean there are a handsome mix of liberals and conservatives that sort of equal out to a politically diverse didn't fit the subtitle very well, or politically heterogeneous was not going to win. So moderate congregations is what won, but I don't think people realize this, but even among white evangelicals, the majority were Democrats in the 1970s, even through the 1980s. Now, they were Dixiecrats. Like, let's be clear about this. They were segregationist Democrats, like going back to the Jesse Helms, Strom Thurmond style of Democrat. But a lot of them were FDR Democrats, right? Because they came up during the New Deal and the Depression. My grandma was a Democrat, and she was a Southern Baptist, and she was like 90. I'm like, Grandma, why you vote for Democrats? And she said, because FDR. She was born in 1912, and 1929 is the stock market crash. So she was coming up during the Great Depression. So, but then the white evangelical vote in 1990 was about evenly mixed Republican Democrat, and then now today it's obviously overwhelmingly Republican. 80% of white evangelicals vote for Trump. But you know what?
So this is an issue that is relatively new.
Yes,
is what you were saying.
Yes,
and this idea that the evangelical world and the Republican Party have always been intertwined is a bit of a misnomer. Mm-hmm. That began really with the moral majority in the 1970s, but it really didn't come to full fruition until much later.
Yep, the 90s really, like Newt Gingrich, I think is a big reason why we have this sort of like I call it the God gap or the Pew gap.
And I would say it might have peaked in the 2004 election.
In some ways, because the same-sex marriage was on the ballot in 15. By the way, it was on the ballot in 15 states and passed in all 15 a ban on same-sex marriage, including the ultra-conservative state of Oregon, passed by like 60-40. Like people forget how fast things have changed in American politics on these sort of key issues. Like I swear I'm going to get something tattooed on my head that says it's not always been this way. Like where we are with current religion and politics is very much current. Like it's really like a product of like the last 30 years and maybe even the last 20 years. Like in terms of, my students, they don't know much about Christianity because, they're religiously illiterate because a lot of them grew up in fairly non-religious households. But when they do think about Christianity, they think about the religious right. They think about the moral majority. Think about the white evangelical Republicans. You would be amazed at how many of my students have never heard of the social gospel movement or the abolitionist movement as it was driven by Christians who believed that, slavery was inherently incompatible with the gospel. They only know of American religion in a conservative way, which I think is might be the primary reason why many young people are rejecting religion is because they just think it's frankly incompatible. If I'm a liberal, I cannot be a Christian. And you see that in the data, by the way, among young white people, 70% of very liberal people are non-religious. Just think about that for a minute. In a country where it's only 30% of all people are non-religious, among young, white, very liberal people, it's 70%. So like it's almost impossible to be a like Bernie Sanders white young person and be a Christian at all because you just don't think it's compatible with how your politics work. And again, that is a modern idea. 50 years ago, there were socialists. I'll give you a good example, Sam. Do you know who William Jennings Bryan is?
Yeah, I mean, there was a whole like Scopes monkey trial thing.
I was just there, dude, in Dayton, Tennessee, like last week. So for the
it was a bit of a thing. I would say that's where you really saw the fundamentalists start to emerge.
That's right.
And yes. The break away from the evangelicals.
Yes, but did you know that William Jennings Bryan was a socialist?
I did not. I've never done a deep dive onto him, so I did not know that.
He's a fascinating character because he was a biblical literalist, right? Believed in a literal 6-day creation. That's what the Scopes trial was about. And he was on the stand and said that. He said, I believe the earth did stop spinning because that's what it says in the book of Joshua. Like he was a literalist. But he also said that no man can make $1 million honestly. So he was like a populist in that category. So like guys like Brian do not map at all onto modern politics. And that's why I think it's so fascinating is my students don't realize that. Like we think like economic conservatism, social conservatism run hand in hand, but it's like, no. It used to be like you could fit in the other quadrants and still be a Christian. And so I think a lot of the problem we have in America is we only have two choices. You know what I mean?
Another problem is people need to start thinking for themselves.
Oh,
too.
Wait a minute.
And form your own ideas about things. And if you don't fit in categories, that's okay.
Hey, I thought that Republicans were in favor of free trade. Was that a misconception somewhere along?
This is not a political show, Ryan.
No, I'm just saying the modern Republican Party was a free trade party.
Correct.
And it was also an interventionist party until Trump said it wasn't, and then managed to invade a foreign country and extract their leader and bring him back to the United States.
No comment.
I'm just saying.
I have Venezuelans in my church that are very happy, but I will say that.
Hey, you know what? And they should be very happy because Maduro is not a good person and should not be leading a country and led to misery and pain and suffering for millions of people. But that does not preclude the fact of what is America's role in doing, removing despots around the world. I think that's a fun philosophical question. Did it help the Venezuelan people? I think that the answer is yes, absolutely. But I'm speaking generally. Like we went into Iraq. That didn't turn out so good. We went into Afghanistan. That did not turn out. Went into Vietnam. Didn't turn out so good. So, I think there's an interesting question about should Christians have a consistent foreign policy? And I don't think there's a clear answer to that question. And yet you have to vote for Republicans if you're, like a conservative Christian right now, because what is your other option? And I think that's actually the flaw in my argument, by the way, because I make this argument like that churches are better when you have Democrats and Republicans sitting side by side. But man, the Democratic Party's made it hard to vote for them.
I will say this though, Ryan, when it comes to Democrat, Republican, Christian, atheist or non-Christian, whatever category you put yourself into, I don't think in the evangelical world that people are formulating who they are going to vote for based on foreign policy.
No, that's like the last of their concern, unless you're like an immigrant yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
if you lump immigration into foreign policy, then maybe, but that's kind of a separate issue.
Oh,
So
yeah.
but let's get back on track. Good kind of precursor to the
Mm-hmm.
discussion. Good,
Mm-hmm.
nice William Jennings Bryan.
Hey, go
reference
read
there.
Summer of the Gods, guys. It's a great book about the Scopes trial. You'll learn a lot about American
I need to
history.
put that on my list. You're not the first person to recommend
It's
that.
very good. Yep.
So let's talk about white Democrats.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of the focus of today's episode is, the Democrats have a religion problem. And frankly, I think this is, it's not helping them. Like, I think it makes them worse as a party.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So white Democrats have become majority non-religious.
Mm-hmm.
Walk me through that.
Yeah. So think about the two parties this way. The vast majority of the Republican Party are Christians, and the vast majority of that are white Christians. So like about 75% of Trump voters.
And these are self-proclaimed.
Self-proclaimed.
We're not trying to make some sort of soteriological statement.
No, I'm not saying that you got to vote for Republican, you're a real Christian or whatever. Like, if you say to me, like, this, what my least favorite comment I get on social media is, yeah, well, show me what the real Catholics believe. And I'm like, could you define for me empirically what a real Catholic is in a way that everyone would agree with? Because you can't. So if you say you're Catholic, you're Catholic. If you say you're Protestant, you're Protestant. If you say you're evangelical, you're evangelical. Like, I'm not going to fight you on that. 75% of Trump voters are white Christians. And that's, in a country where the white share of America is declining and the Christian share of America is declining. So now in the entire electorate, 47% of Americans are white Christians, right? So it dropped below majority in the last 10 years and going to continue to drop for two reasons. One, the share of white people in America is dropping, and the share of Americans who are Christians it dropped for a long time. It's held steady the last couple of years. It's going to drop in the future. So
yeah, but I would say the white population will continue to decline more rapidly than the Christian population.
That is exactly correct. Yes. So that's why people are like, oh, white Christianity is in decline. I go, yeah, because white people are in decline. Like,
right.
The share of the American
it's
population.
not the Christianity side of that. It's the white
yeah,
side.
It's more the white side than the Christian side, So, and actually the share of Americans who are non-white Christians is the same today as it was 50 years ago. Fun little fact there. Around 17% of Americans are non-white Christians.
You're always full of fun little facts.
You like that? That's good, right? So that's the Republican Party, is overwhelmingly Christian people, especially white Christian people. Now, the Democratic Party, on the other hand, is the party of, like I call it, the party of everybody else. So you've got the nuns, right? So atheist, agnostic, nothing in particular. 25% of Harris voters were atheists or agnostics. 45% of Harris voters were non-religious people, generally speaking. So almost half of the Democratic electorate is non-religious now. But you can't win elections with that share. You need more people than that. So who else do you got? You've got Black Protestants. You've got Hispanic Catholics. But you've also got Jews. You've got Muslims. You've got Hindus. You got Buddhists. So it basically becomes the party of everyone else that's not a white Christian. And the problem with that, though, is how do you hold together a coalition of people who have diverse needs and wants and desires? Like, atheists on a lot of these moral issues are completely different than Black Protestants are on these sort of like religious freedom issues. So I think that's actually the biggest problem with the Democratic Party is messaging is hard because of their sort of diverse coalition. And the reality is there's not enough non-religious voters in America yet to win national elections. I would say their coalition's great for like 2050. The problem is it's not 2050, it's 2026. Yeah. The Republicans' problem is their coalition is awesome for 1980. It's less awesome for 2025 because their base is literally dying by the day. So how do both parties have these structural problems when it comes to religion, and they're not that easy to solve for either party. And so how they navigate that in the future, to me, is like the most important question of like, who is going to dominate American politics, is who can figure out how to widen their tent without kicking other people out, which is hard to do.
Yeah. It also, and this is a whole other issue, speaks to the potential of a third party kind of coming into the picture here in the next 10 or 20 years. Because the problem with Republicans is it's not a broad enough coalition. The problem with Democrats is, that white liberal is very different than the traditional Muslim, right?
Yes.
And the tensions that are going to be there and the potential fracturing of the Democratic Party is I imagine something that party leaders are talking about, because Democrats of color still are more religious. Now, let's understand, when we say religion in the United States, we're not just talking about Christianity.
Correct.
We're talking about Judaism. We're talking about Islam and some others. Now, obviously much more of a minority if you get into Hinduism or some of the, the Baha'i faith or something like that. Much smaller portions here. But that's part of what Democrats have done is they've pulled in these groups that are people of color who are religious. So explain to me a little bit about this, because I'm a religious liberty guy. You should be free to believe whatever you want to believe in our nation. At the same time, I still believe we are a Christian nation. I'm not talking out both sides of my mouth there. I believe in the Christian principles that we were founded upon, but I also believe that people should be free to worship however they want to worship. So let's talk about those who are people of color who happen to be in the Democratic Party. Because I'll just give my opinion here. I don't see this coalition holding for the next 20 years. I think it's way too tense right now. And there's way too many different worldviews in the Democratic Party for it to hold. But that's just my opinion.
I'll even give you like a tip of the spear kind of discussion, which is how much religious freedom do religious groups have to hire and fire people based on things like gender identity or sexual orientation? Because there was something called the Equality Act that was bouncing around about 5 years ago. The Biden, when Biden was running for president, he talked about it a lot as a way to sort of gin up the base and win the primary and all those things. But as soon as he got in office, he stopped talking about it. And there's a very good reason for that. Because it makes a lot of Christians, Black Christians especially, really mad, because what it says is if you have like a Sunday school teacher, or let's say you have a school, like a Christian school on your campus, and one of your teachers comes out as transgender, you would be legally prohibited from firing that person because of their gender identity under the Equality Act, which is a fundamental violation of religious freedom, because the courts have always given churches a wide berth. Like discrimination laws do not apply in religious contexts because of what's called the ministerial exception, which means if you are a minister of the church, which by the way, the Supreme Court just widened that significantly to what it's not just ministers. It could be teachers, could be even be janitors, could be office staff, because this court's very pro-religion, both pro-religious freedom. Atheists don't like that. They say like the courts are basically enshrining the right of religion to discriminate against people. Atheists love that idea.
Or they're enshrining the right to religious liberty, depending on your perspective.
Exactly right. Depending on if you think the Equality Act's a good thing or not. Like if you think it's, and listen, I'll be clear about, and I wrote about this in the book, atheists and agnostics on a lot of social issues are fringe players. Like their views are far outside the mainstream of America. And the point I make in the book, which you should still buy the book, by the way, the point I make in the book about atheists is this. Richard Dawkins was given the Humanist of the Year award in 1996 for being, a great atheist and, evangelism for atheism. And then 2 years ago, they revoked that award. And the reason they did so is because he went on his podcast and said there were only two genders. So, like when we talk about intolerance, I think we need to be really clear about what intolerance means.
That's Richard Dawkins, by the way.
Richard Dawkins got kicked out of the tribe. He had a
farewell. Maybe he believes the science, Ryan.
That's actually what he said. He goes, I'm a biologist. This is what the science says. But he had a farewell Rob Bell moment on the other side of the ledger. And what's funny is I talk to my atheist friends, but they go, yeah, we're not tribal like you guys are, like evangelicals or Christians are. I go, then invite Richard Dawkins to speak at the next annual convention of American Atheists. You're not going to do it, which is exactly what evangelicals do when when a speaker says something that might be outside of orthodoxy and the boundary maintenance kicks in. So guess what? You think they're intolerant, but you're doing the exact same thing that they're doing, but for some reason it's right when you do it and it's wrong when they do it.
So this gets to another key point here.
Yes.
The non-religious white Democrats are far more progressive on issues than other people, particularly religious Democrats of color, within the party. And some of these views have gotten, if you're just talking facts and where mainstream society is in the United States, they are way outside the bounds of what most people adhere to, whatever their religion or non-religion may be in the United States.
Exactly. And that's, if you look at atheists, like where they put themselves in the political spectrum, like from like very liberal to very conservative, they see themselves as moving toward the left. And then you ask them what the Republicans are doing, they go, oh, they put them at like 6.7 on a 7-point scale. So almost as conservative as you get. And then what's funny is they see the modern Democratic Party as starting out as moderate and becoming more moderate over time. So they're actually moving, the atheists themselves are moving to the left, and they think the Democrats are moving toward the center. They're the only religious group in America that sees themselves to the left of the Democratic Party. Even evangelicals do not see themselves to the right of the Republican Party. They actually see themselves exactly the same spot. So I think what they're trying to do is pull the Democratic Party to the left, sort of away from its historical base of like old school white Catholics, like labor Democrats, old school mainline Protestants. And I think that's actually probably one of the reasons the party is in the shape that it's in. If you go like ask them, I would love to do a survey of like Democratic staffers at the highest level about their religious affiliation, because I'm going to bet you that a huge percentage of them are non-religious, functionally non-religious.
If I were to guess, Democratic staffers.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I would guess higher than 85%.
Have to be, right? I mean,
I don't know, but that would be my guess.
Yeah. So, but guess what? The rank and file's not there. A lot of rank and file folks go to church, or at least see a value in religion and go every once in a while. And and I hate to be this guy, but the Democratic Party is being led by people who are in that Excella corridor bubble where they grew up without religion. They don't understand religion at all. They've never actually met an evangelical in real life. They don't know what church does. They don't understand how it functions. They're just a bunch of secular, liberal Democrats who care about things like colonialism. That is not what activates the base in middle America. And I think that's one of the huge reasons the party's in the shape that it's in. It forgot who it was, which was, guess what? Blue collar working class white people in rural America used to be the base of the Democratic Party. And now they all vote for Republicans. And part of that's because of the Republican parties cater to them in such a way. But other part of it is the Democratic Party acts like Christians don't exist, which is a real problem. I'll give you an example. I scraped the tweets of all the Democratic candidates in 2020 for president. So Klobuchar, Buttigieg, Biden, Bernie, all those people, when you can still scrape Twitter for free. You can't do that now, Elon. I don't like you.
He's a capitalist.
He's
making money off of you.
Yeah, well, he can give me academic access for free and I could publicize. Anyway, guess what? They tweeted more about Islam than they did about Christianity.
Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise anybody.
I know, but like to actually see it tangibly, the vibes are one thing, the data is another thing. And like I think there were 2 references to Jesus in all those tweets, and one was about the band Jesus and Mary Chain. So like there was, I love that story. Like, so, but Islam's 1% of American Christians or 63% of America. Yet it's like Democrats can't talk about that.
As a Christian myself, who values the Christian principles of our country, I will never understand the draw that the Democratic Party has to Islam, because the tenets of Islam are way more problematic to progressivism than Christianity is. I'll just say that.
Muslims are culturally very conservative. Like, let's talk about their situation with gender. Like, it's so funny how you'll protect their rights to discriminate against women, but then if like Christians do it, then it's wrong. It's
a strange thing, man. I don't understand.
I don't get it. Get it.
To tidy this thing up, the U.S. is still roughly 60% Christian.
63% according to Pew, yes.
Little higher there. And Pew does good research, by the way. Not as good as yours, but still good research.
I use their data. They do fine. I like them very much, yes.
So the risk here, the problem with the Democratic Party is they will not build a winning strategy on secular voters alone.
There's not enough of them. They're just
not. Facts are facts. They won't be able to do this. And I think this is one of their biggest problems.
Yes. Is where they are geographically is problematic too, because they're concentrated in areas you're already running up the score. Like San Francisco atheist ain't going to win you a national election, folks. You need to win Pennsylvania, like in North Carolina. And those are states that still have a lot of Christians, old school white Christians, who when you say, what is the limit on abortion? And you don't say a number, they go, what is wrong with you, man? Like, come up with a real answer, for goodness sakes. So I think that's the problem, is they forgot, because who they surround themselves with? All the people who believe like they do and think like they do and have the same background they do. They need to get out in the middle of the country a little bit more and realize what the average American thinks about the Democratic Party, because it's not good.
Well, there you go. The Democrats have a religion problem.
Yeah.
No, just facts on this podcast, maybe a few snarky comments from me, but
listen,
being a registered Republican myself,
we throw mud at everybody. Okay, I think we can all admit, like,
I lean right. That's not a surprise to anybody who listens to this show. But Ryan is here to like bring balance to everything, and just without even like giving you any inclination as to what he really believes, just spit facts, and I like that about you. You just offend everybody. So
I'm
you
an
got
equal
enemies all
opportunity
around you.
offender. Yeah, like if I always say to people, like if you think what I'm saying is like catering to one side, wait 10 minutes because I'm sure I'll say something else that'll make the other side mad. Congratulations.
Hey, we want to thank Upward, our sponsor for today's episode. They're an amazing ministry partner. It's a new year. Get started well. Reach out to them. So, you've got 2026 in sights. You've got things that you want to do, maybe spring, summer, or fall. Upward needs to be front and center. They have incredible programs. They've got basketball, soccer, flag football, cheerleading, volleyball, baseball, pickleball, adult running, all sorts of programs. So go to upward.org/churchanswers. The link is in the show notes. Reach out to them. You go to upward.org too. Just tell them that we sent you, because that helps us. That helps the show. And share the show if you don't mind. Let people know. Hey, if you're on the YouTube, send them a link to this. Give us a thumbs up. Rate, review, subscribe. You guys know what to do. Thank you again for tuning into today's episode. See you on the next one.